Today on Mormon Times, caring for the poor among us. Hear how one LDS couple inspired over 10,000 people in Mozambique to become self-reliant. And BYU football coach Bronco Mendenhall tells how 3 days in college helped shape his testimony forever.
I lived the gospel standards growing up, and to this day haven't tasted alcohol, and I've lived the word of wisdom. That's different than having a testimony.
Get his take on faith, family, and football, and helping new converts feel welcome in our wards, how members can make this life transition much easier. Cougars are about to take the field for a brand new season, the 7th year for head coach Bronco Mendenhall. Bronco has led the Cougars to 6 straight bowl games, and their 50 wins in the last 5 years is surpassed by only 8 other college football teams. Former BYU and NFL tight end Chad Lewis spoke with Mendenhall on football, family, and faith.
Bronco Mendenhall has a powerful testimony, a testimony of the gospel that can be tied to one powerful event. It happened when he was a junior at Oregon State. He went in his bedroom, locked the door, and put the Book of Mormon to the test.
I hadn't yet ever read the Book of Mormon from beginning to end. So I closed the door to my bedroom and I read for 3 days, from beginning to end. It was kind of one of those experiences where I had to know, and the borrowed light component of it wouldn't work any longer. With real intent and a sincere heart, for the first time I asked, and a very calm and quiet prompting and peace came at the end of that 3 days, and that was the beginning of what I know and believe to this point.
Bronco is entering his 7th year with the Cougars. He says the previous 6 seasons were some of his most cherished, but also some of the most difficult. In fact, he said he almost quit after year 4.
I had had enough after the 10-3 year. Enough meaning that I was ready to finish. I didn't think that I was maintaining balance. And so at that time, Holly and I had to decide, we decided together, if we are going to continue, for what reason, or what would compel us to continue doing this. And it ended up being, for me personally, representation of my faith.
With that faith, Bronco has helped many players become not only better football players, but better men. One example is sophomore Kyle Van Noy. Before signing day in 2009, Van Noy was cited for a DUI and had to wait 1 year before suiting up. But Bronco never gave up on the linebacker from Reno.
Kyle and I have a fantastic relationship. I have stood by him, but he's also stood by me. If bishops are watching this, it might resonate with them. That I'm closest with my players that struggle because of all the time we spend together, all the counseling, all the tears that are shed, the anger that's exchanged, the teachable moments, etc. And he's just one example that I could say I'm as proud of Kyle today, and he's far from perfect, as am I, but the progress that he's made is phenomenal.
The BYU football program has made great progress since Bronco took over in 2005. With the move to independence, Bronco's hope is to take the program even further. And while he feels he now has his life in balance, football still takes a backseat to family and faith.
At the end of this life, I probably won't be gauged by choosing to punt on 4th down in our opener against Boston College when 58,000 people booed. That probably won't be in the conversation on Judgment Day. And the wins and losses probably won't be part of it either. I think I'll be asked about what kind of husband I was, what kind of father I was, what kind of steward was I over the family that I was blessed with and the young men in my care. Did I help other people? Did I have a compassionate heart and spirit? And if I have done those things, then that will be a successful life.
Bronco and his Cougars start the season next Saturday when they travel to Ole Miss. Their home opener, September 17th, when they host their biggest rival, the Utah Utes. Over 50% of Mozambicans live below the poverty line. Up next, how one couple is bringing hope and help to thousands of families there. And inviting new members into our circle of friends, how you can make the transition easier for converts. We love sharing pictures of our missionaries serving in the field, and if you have a picture you'd like to share, please send it to mormontimes@ksl.com. The call to serve comes in many forms. For Blair and Cindy Packard of Arizona, their call wasn't a church calling, but rather a life calling to help the poor in Mozambique. 11 years ago, they started Care for Life, a nonprofit foundation focused on preserving and helping the families in Africa. Here are the Packards with their story.
We were typical, average members of the church. We'd pay fast offerings and know that we were doing something to help, but we really didn't know anything about Africa.
I had a friend who went to Africa, and she found out about the problems with maternal and infant mortality, and she knew that I was a midwife. And so she said, "You have to come here and do something about this." When I looked into the issues that were happening in Africa, I read this article that said over 50% of the babies were dying, and that's because no one was interested in training midwives anymore. So I had this powerful feeling in my heart. I have to go. I had to do something. When we made the decision to go, I took my 2 youngest daughters and 4 other college students, and we didn't know a soul. I was scared to death, and we just went.
When Cindy came back with our 2 youngest daughters from that first trip, I had 3 family members who were all impassioned about doing something, and so 6 months later, Cindy and I went back and spent 3 weeks in Mozambique and had some, just life-changing experiences as we viewed the poverty firsthand.
I mean, people lacked everything. They lacked everything. They were just so living in extreme poverty.
And we began researching how to start a nonprofit organization. We talked to attorney friends, accountant friends, got advice on how to do that, and read lots of books, and finally just jumped in and started.
We go into these villages and we tell them right up front, we're not here to give you anything. We're here to help you with knowledge and life-saving instruction that you can apply in your life to change your life. We came up with this idea that people could set goals, and then once they reach those goals, then you could give them a little reward. That would motivate them to start this behavior change cycle in their life. As we go into a village, what you first might see is you will see children that are not in school. They are dirty, they've worn the same clothes for weeks on end, they're hauling water, they have a sibling on their back. There's pools of water, garbage, there's no latrines, and it's because they don't know the importance of it and they don't know how to do it. As you go into a village after we exit our communities in 30 months, you will see a completely different village. You will see houses that are clean, yards that are swept. You will see strong houses that they have built their own bricks.
We've worked in Africa now for 11 years. Some of the things that have impacted us have been huge. We have a daughter who we adopted from an orphanage in Mozambique. That has changed our life forever. We've now served 2 missions in Mozambique. We served with the church's measles campaign. We were called back to serve as mission president for 3 years. So there's been a whole bunch of things that have impacted us pretty significantly because we decided just to heed a call and go to Africa just to explore what we might be able to do.
And I'd like to think that it gives you a different perspective of the world. It's almost like seeing with 2 eyes instead of 1. If you know where other people are in the world, then you know where you are and what that means.
What a great story. Care for Life is currently inspiring over 10,000 people to become self-reliant. They employ local Mozambicans to help teach the people there. You can find out much more about this organization at careforlife.org. Still to come, a community gardening project with perks. Refugee boys sell produce to pay for Scout Camp, what they learned in the process. The family of Elder Clark serving in South Africa sent us these pictures. Elder Clark and his companion were able to teach students at a school near Johannesburg. What great photos. We love hearing your inspiring stories and sharing your pictures. If you've got a story or the photos you want to share, please email them to us at mormontimes@ksl.com. Well, last year in the church, there were 272,814 convert baptisms. In 1974, there were 69,018. 2 of those were Julie and Steve Dawson of South Jordan. In 1971, Steve and Julie Dawson moved to California from Washington, D.C. Not long after, 2 Mormon missionaries knocked on their door.
Trying to be the generous host, he said, "Can I bring you a beer?" And they just kind of looked at him and they said, "Oh, no, thank you. We don't drink beer." And then he says, "Well, how about some iced tea?" Everything he could bring out. "Can I fix you a cup of coffee?" And he just kept going on and on and on. And it was obvious that this was going to be a major lifestyle change when they kept rejecting everything. And he'd say, "You don't do that either?"
The Dawsons, in their early 20s, quickly learned the Mormon faith was much different than what they were taught as lifelong Protestants.
The first time it was like, you can't smoke, you can't drink, and you wear pioneer dresses. My husband used to say, "Oh, aren't they the cult that eats babies?" I mean, that's how little Easterners at that time knew about LDS people.
The Dawsons learned much more about LDS people and the faith, and one day it all clicked.
The aha moment was like, I've heard this before. When they started talking about the Savior having been in America, and when they started talking about the power of the priesthood, I said, how come that's not in the newspaper? If something's this powerful, why doesn't everybody know about it?
The Dawsons knew it and were baptized in 1974. Aside from making several lifestyle changes, they say their extended family's attitudes towards their newfound faith was most difficult. But along with their 4 children, all active in the church, the Dawsons are forever grateful for their conversion.
We are a forever family as compared to, as I go to the funerals of my own family, there's no hope that they'll be reunited. It's just, you're dead. It's gone. It's over. I enjoy the fact that this is only one stage of our existence, and that when we pass on, there will be more after that, and my family will be a part of that.
Julie's advice to lifelong members is to be patient with converts because for many, she said, lifestyle changes take time. There's a new book that can help us help converts, and it's titled, I'm a Mormon, Now What? And the author, Carmen Davis, joins us now. Sir Carmen, what have you found to be the biggest obstacles for new converts to the church?
Well, first, it's such a lifestyle change. Mormonism has a complete cultural difference. There's differences in tradition, in holidays, in observances, and that's been a real challenge, I think, for a lot of my family members as they've come from the world outside into Mormonism. The standards of the world are just so much more lax than what we are expected to live as members of the Church of Jesus Christ.
Is a word of wisdom, is that one of the tough parts for them as well?
Word of wisdom, yes, has been an issue. Families don't understand when there's been customs and traditions that have happened at Christmas dinner, and now as a new member, when you sit down to Christmas dinner, things are different. Or we're all going to the lake on Sunday, and that's what we used to do. And it's hard for them to understand, well, why now, because you joined this new church, can't you come with us and have fun with us? And that's been a real struggle for a lot of converts that I had talked to.
So how about members that grow up in the church? How can we best help those new converts to get acclimated maybe a little bit more quickly?
I think the biggest thing is to just be patient. It's so hard for them to make the change. We take a lot for granted when we grow up with membership in the church. Things that we just assume or know, the primary songs, the way that the church meetings are run, it's not new or different to us, but when a new convert comes into the church, everything is different. My husband's a convert, and even now he's been a member for 14 years. When they sing a new song, sometimes when the primary comes in and sings a new song, he's like, oh, I haven't heard that one before. They just don't get the little kid learning that we get growing up in it. We're all converts at one time or another. It's just that when you grow up in it, you're not converted to the culture. You have the cultural conversion already. It's just a personal spiritual conversion that you're waiting for.
Yeah, good point. Also in your book, I like this. You have common LDS terms and definitions, the ones that kind of confuse the converts. What are some of the more popular words that confuse them?
I think the funniest one is steak center. When you hear the word steak center, and when new converts hear it, they assume they're going to go have a meal. It's at the steak center. There's going to be food served. Another one probably is fast Sunday. It's not going to go any faster. In fact, it's probably going to go a whole lot longer or seem a whole lot longer than the regular Sundays. Another thing would be all the short things that we shorten. Family Home Evening, FHE, EFY, BYU. With a new convert, they're busy looking at their cell phone trying to figure out, I didn't know that text language. What words am I missing here? So it's just, the whole thing is just new for them.
Okay, Carmen Davis, thanks so much. Really enjoyable reading your book. I appreciate coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Well, we've got some of Carmen's books to give away on our Facebook page, so go to Mormon Times TV and tell us your ideas for helping new converts feel welcome in our wards. Up next, never mispronounce a difficult word from the Bible again.
Cheddar,
A phone app that will have you sounding smart in Sunday school. How many times have you been called on to read a scripture in Sunday school and you get a verse with names too difficult to pronounce? There are many names and words in the Bible that can make us all do a double take. Just ask these local college students.
Cheddar Laumer.
cheddar,
Cheddar.
cheddar,
Cheddar Lamer. Cheddar La.
cheddar Lamore,
Wait, hold on.
cheddar Laomer.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Mephibosheth. Sheath.
Mephibosheth.
Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth.
I don't know if I can pronounce it.
Sennacherib.
Sennacherib?
Oh,
Sennacherib.
that's as good as I'm getting.
You think you got that one?
Uje Abarim.
Aij Abarim.
Yay. A Barim.
No.
That was in Spanish.
How'd you think you did?
Terrible.
How do you think you did?
40%?
Okay. Just okay.
I think I did 100%.
Don't think she got 100%, but just to make sure, there's an app for that. Michael Vance created an app for iPhones and iPads to help us with those hard Bible words, and he joins us now via Skype from Maryland. So, Michael, why don't you go ahead and pronounce those 4 words for us?
Certainly. Kedorlaomer, Mephibosheth, Sennacherib, and Ija Abarim.
Well, I think they got a couple, right? That's not too bad. Now, your app is called Bible Audio Pronunciations. How did this all come about?
Well, my wife and I had talked about for years making an iPhone app, and this year we decided to make it happen. We sat down together to brainstorm our great ideas, only to find that most of them had already been converted into apps, except for one, and that was an app that would help you to pronounce those challenging words found in the Old and New Testament.
So tell us how it works.
Well, the app is very simple to use. You scroll through a list of terms. There's actually 1,600 words in the app right now, although it will expand over 7,000. But you can scroll through the list or search for a specific term and press play. And then you will hear the correct pronunciation of the word.
So tell us quickly, why is it important that we get them all right? Why is it important we pronunciate correctly?
Well, I think pronunciation is the first step to understanding. Often if we don't know how to pronounce a word, we often don't know the meaning of the word. And then sometimes we fail to even try to comprehend the meaning of the verse itself. It can scare us away. Just look at the book of Isaiah, for example. Imagine, on the other hand, that you knew how to pronounce those words. And then add to that, imagine that you knew the meaning behind the word. Wouldn't Isaiah be a much more friendly book if that were the case?
It certainly would. Michael Vance, a great idea, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
In Utah, there are hundreds of different scout camps during the summer, but there was one camp recently filled with boys not only learning how to adjust to the outdoors, but trying to figure out a whole new culture.
They clean the truck up.
One by one, 40 Boy Scouts got off the bus recently and jumped into Boy Scout Camp near Bear Lake.
We get to meet our new friends and meet a lot of people.
Which is so important for this scout troop. All of these boys came with their families from refugee camps in Thailand.
And these are Karen and Karenni, ethnic minorities.
Michael Nebaker is the second counselor in the bishopric of the Columbus branch of the South Salt Lake Stake.
There is nothing better than wholesome recreation for these boys to get out of the apartment complexes they live in, out of the asphalt where they're currently living, and get into the outdoors and go on overnight wilderness survival.
We learn to be honest and swimming and prepare and let's see life saving.
These boys were able to afford the camp thanks to the sale of vegetables they helped grow in their community garden last summer.
Tomato, chili, vegetable, those things.
That community garden has been a godsend for these families, and particularly these boys. This year, we've expanded the garden, and the Boy Scouts have their own plots. So alongside the families that are gardening, they are raising their own crops and vegetables.
Do hard things this week?
Yeah. Bob Roylance has also been a godsend. After serving an inner city mission, he, along with some extended family members, organized this troop after seeing other refugees getting into trouble. He calls being their scoutmaster a privilege.
We realized that the boys were, going in the wrong direction, and we found ourselves in juvenile court, on quite a few occasions, and decided that if we're going to save this group of people, we need to save this generation.
A generation that continues to get acclimated to Salt Lake City and the English language.
We learn new skills and like the flag ceremonies and stuff like that. They also teach you about teamwork, friendship, and how to survive and how to do going to some place that you lost.
These boys no longer feel lost in a much different culture. Thanks to the scouting program and their great leaders, many hope to go on missions as well as on to college.
It's not inexpensive to go to camp, but best dollar we ever spent on these boys.
There are several other refugee scout troops in Salt Lake City, but so many more boys are looking for a chance to join in. Thanks so much for being with us today, and we hope you join us again next Sunday on Mormon Times.